what are some things that people need to be aware of from your standpoint? What should they be cautious of before they start just buying from somebody on, let's say, like Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or YouTube or wherever? How's it going, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in for this epic discussion with my friend Guido Stackin. Guido, what's going on, bud?
What is up, guys?
Now, it's been, since we've done one of these collaborations, it's been like a year. At least a year.
Probably longer than that.
Probably, probably. It's been about that long until you got your internet back up and running. But for those of you that don't know, Guido and I have known each other now for, I would say, a little bit over 4 years. My channel started. Guido, you had, I think at the time, somewhere around like 9,000 subscribers or something. But you were one of the bigger channels in the stacking niche 4 years ago when I started. And I remember when you came across my channel and you were actually spending time talking to me, I was like, man, why is this big channel want to have anything to do with me? But here we are 4 years later, and we're still good friends, and we've done a lot of projects together. We've done a lot of video collaborations, live stream shows, auctions, you name it. We've done quite a bit, right?
Charity stuff.
Charity stuff as well.
Charity stuff. Yep.
So it's been a long time coming. I think a lot of the people who follow both of our channels, they enjoy whenever you and I are together. So thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule for me.
Absolutely.
So
Anytime, Storm.
Anytime. You're such a kind soul. Here's the deal, though, because this is what kind of interests me about what's going on with you as it relates to precious metals and within the space as a dealer. And, I'm going to let you speak. I want you to essentially give the audience a backstory as to where you started with stacking and like YouTube and what have you, and how it essentially evolved into a part-time business side hustle thing, and then further into a legitimate profession in which this is now who you are and what you do. So if you could just give the audience a little bit of a background for us.
It's been a long journey, 10 years to get where I am right now. It started off as as a hobby, just like everybody, pretty much getting your feet wet. And I was kind of doing it silently, stacking for like 4 years before I decided to start making content on YouTube, because at the time there wasn't a lot of channels. There was like Salivate Metal, and then I can't even name the other ones. They're not even making content anymore. Like Sal is probably one of the only ones that's still around from when I first started.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to make content. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start vlogging about my stack, because I thought it would be kind of cool to go back and see how far I've come years down the road, which I do now. Sometimes I'll look at an old video and stuff like, man, I sound awful in that video or whatever. But pretty much started just like that, like a hobby. And then I wanted to interact with the subscribers, so and I think I talked to you before I actually did it too, the auction.
Yes.
Yeah, we did. I think I did the first one on my own, and then a lot of people showed up, and it was kind of a mess and very disorganized. But there was potential, so we started doing the auctions, and then that's how it became like a part-time thing. I was doing property management at the time, so it was really hard to do like quantity type stuff. So I was only auctioning I don't know, maybe 15, 20 items a night. And that's how the part-time came about. And then I got a job at a coin shop during the pandemic. I got furloughed, and basically was relying on bullion sales during the pandemic, because being furloughed and whatever the government was giving us at the time was definitely not enough. So that's kind of the transition. That's when I started transitioning into an actual dealer. The experience from the coin shop, and then leaving the coin shop and just going out on my own. And this is it. This is it. The one thing I suck at, I am not doing well, is making content. That's one thing and I know you get on me about it. I know.
It's so here's the thing too, which a lot of people don't necessarily realize. I mean, just to put out a 10-minute video on YouTube takes multiple hours, because not only are you recording it, sometimes you've got to do multiple takes because you fumble over your own words. You rip one, something falls down in the background, whatever the case may be, but you got to do multiple takes. Then you got to do the editing. Then you got to upload. You got to do the thumbnail. You got to do the SEO. You got to do the description. You got to schedule it. I mean, there's a lot involved. Also, the researching of the keywords. I mean, all of that stuff. So I completely empathize. I totally understand for you because, you know, you now are not doing the YouTube thing as just a hobby. It's your way of life. It's a business. And you are essentially, the time that you are not on YouTube, you're actually out and about, wheeling and dealing, closing sales, making trades, posting on your eBay store, whatever it is. But yeah, I could totally understand why it would be so difficult for you to do all of that, because you need to do that stuff in order to maintain your life. You need to be able to eat and pay your bills.
Right.
And making content is a struggle when you're trying to do both things. I totally understand. You know, and I remember too talking about the transition from you going from part-time to doing it full-time, because I remember our conversation, and I remember very distinctively somebody, Stormy, said to you, listen, your hours have been cut down because the economy is in the toilet. You know, how many more hours would you actually need to stream on YouTube, or how many more posts on Instagram would you need to do in order to do this full time? And you said, oh, maybe only a couple more hours, whatever. I'm like, take the plunge. And then one thing led to another. You ended up having to do it full time. I know that the coin shop wasn't doing so well. And now you're thriving, which is what I wanted to talk to you a bit more about, because I posted a video. Well, it's actually in the process of being edited. I was going to break the story to you now, or the news to you now, that I am doing a shout out video to the YouTube community, but I'm talking about Instagram sellers who are trustworthy, because there's a lot of fraud. There's a lot of scams, and people, well-seasoned stackers who are very smart. They're not newbies, and they also have common sense, also are getting scammed. And so I think, even though, in full disclosure, even though you and I are really good friends, I also look at you as a competitor. And I know to some degree you probably view me that way too. Like, we're, in my opinion, out of anybody else within the YouTube community, Instagram, whatever, who sells, you know, I view everybody outside of myself as a competitor, but you,
of course,
I view, though, more like a partnership, though. It's like a strange relationship that I yes, I compete with you, but not to the extent that I view everybody else. And maybe that's because you and I started together early on and worked together so closely. We have similar styles. Yep. But what I wanted to talk about are the Instagram sellers, as well as maybe on Facebook, because I know you're on there. But what are some things that people need to be aware of from your standpoint? What should they be cautious of before they start just buying from somebody on, let's say, like Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or YouTube or wherever?
So one of the things that people constantly fall for is, you know, it's easy to see right away that if something's priced too cheap. Mm-hmm. If it's priced too cheap, it's a red flag.
Too good, you know,
yeah. That's when you should really start digging into the page. But one of the easiest ways to find like a scammer page, even on Facebook, is just look at their history. So if you look on Instagram, let's start with Instagram. You'll notice that they have a ton of posts, and most of the time the posts are going to be really close together. Like within a week, they posted like 500 posts. That's not normal, and that's already a red flag. And then the other one, if you look at comments on those posts, and you see that nobody's buying,
Yeah.
nobody's saying bin,
Right.
nobody's saying, I'll take that, whatever. Would you take this much? There's no interaction. That's another bad sign.
Yes.
And then I guess the other one would be if you do see interaction, click the profile that's interacting to make sure that that's a real profile.
Yeah.
Because they could have multiple accounts, and listen, they're starting to get like really like complicated scams.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it on Facebook the other day. This guy had like 5 profiles that he was using as references for all 5 of the accounts. And if you fall for that, then you're done. That's it. Once you get your money, you're done. Zelle, Venmo, Cash App. Once you send the money, it's gone. So it's not like PayPal goods and services where you could fight it. So that being said, just do your research. Don't be so quick to buy, and look who they're following and who follows them, and you should be okay. As long as you take your time. I think people get overly excited when they see like a crazy deal, and I think that's part of the scam, is to get people like overly excited, so right away they want to close the deal because they don't want someone to scoop it up.
Right.
So just be patient, and most of the time, if it's like an unbelievable deal, it's probably a scam.
Now let me see. Okay, let me just see our timing. Okay, 11:40. I'm just writing this down. Hang on. I just want to write down. Okay, so aside from that too, I didn't even really think about the frequency of posts, like 500 posts all back to back like that. In the video that I am putting out soon, talking about these scams, it's probably going to drop before this video with you and I. But one of the things too that people should look at, aside from just the bin comments, like how many people are actually saying buy it now, like, oh, I want 3 please, or whatever. Also just the general engagement. If there's no likes on it, nobody's commenting, just a very low amount of engagement on a particular post, that's another red flag. And the other red flag, I would say, and this doesn't always have to be necessarily true for all accounts that are like this, but I also think that the accounts that have a very high amount of followers, which are essentially equal to the amount they are following, I kind of view that very much with like a critical eye.
Yeah.
So if they have like 6,000 followers, but they're following 6,300 people, I view that as like sub for sub, or they, I have a little over 5,000 and I follow 200 people. And that's it. So I think that people should look at that. But these scams too, like, how, going back to what you were saying, like the too good to be true scenario, some of these scams are getting to where they're still good to be true, but not too good to be true. Like they're pricing it.
They're starting to learn.
Yes, that they're still luring people in with like, wow, that's a really good price. Maybe they bought it when gold was down. That's not ridiculous. You know what I mean? So there's that too. Now, this video, it's going to probably be like 2 or 3 parts. So what I'm thinking, I'm going to ask you another question, but that's going to be for the part 2 of this video. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah,
right.
that's cool.
All right.